The autumn rain fell gently on the windows of the Children's Hospital in Birmingham as Prince William and Catherine walked through the quiet corridors. They had made this visit without fanfare, arriving early in the morning before the media could gather. This was not about publicity. This was about something much deeper. Catherine's fingers trembled slightly as she adjusted her simple navy dress. She had specifically chosen it because one of the mothers had written to her months ago, mentioning how her daughter loved the color blue. These were the details that mattered to her, the small ways she could connect with families going through unimaginable hardship. In the pediatric oncology ward, 7-year-old Emma sat propped up in her bed, her bald head covered with a soft pink cap. She had been waiting for this moment for weeks, ever since the nurses whispered that special visitors might come. Her mother, Sarah, stood nearby, dark circles under her eyes telling the story of countless sleepless nights. William entered the room first, his tall frame filling the doorway. But instead of the formal greeting everyone expected, he did something that caught everyone off guard. He knelt down beside Emma's bed, bringing himself to her eye level. Catherine followed, sitting gently on the edge of the bed, careful not to disturb the medical equipment. "Hello, Emma," Catherine said softly, her voice warm and maternal. "We've heard so much about you. The nurses tell us you're the bravest girl in the whole hospital." Emma's eyes widened, but she remained shy, clutching her favorite teddy bear tighter. It was William who noticed the bear first. "Who's this?" he asked, pointing to the well-worn stuffed animal. "Mr. Buttons," Emma whispered, her voice barely audible. "Mr. Buttons looks like he's been on many adventures with you," William continued, his tone gentle and patient. "I had a bear just like him when I was your age. His name was Patty." For the first time, Emma smiled. It was small, hesitant, but genuine. Sarah, watching from the corner, felt tears prick her eyes. Her daughter hadn't smiled in weeks. Catherine reached into her handbag and pulled out something small. It was a tiny silver star on a delicate chain. "Emma, this belonged to a very brave little girl I met last year. She wanted me to pass it on to another brave girl. I think she would want you to have it." As Catherine helped fasten the necklace around Emma's neck, her own eyes glistened with unshed tears. She knew the story behind the star. The little girl who had owned it before had lost her battle with cancer just months ago. Her mother had pressed it into Catherine's hands during the funeral, asking her to find another child who needed courage. William began telling Emma a story about dragons and princesses, his voice animated and engaging. For 20 minutes, the hospital room transformed into a magical kingdom where brave children defeated monsters and where teddy bears had special powers. Emma laughed for the first time in months, the sound like music to her mother's ears. But it was what happened next that would stay with everyone in that room forever. Emma suddenly reached out her small hand and placed it on Catherine's cheek. "Are you sad?" she asked with the innocent perception that only children possess. Catherine couldn't hold back her tears any longer. They rolled down her cheeks as she nodded. "Sometimes, yes. But meeting brave girls like you makes me happy, too. My mummy cries sometimes," Emma said matter-of-factly. "I tell her it's okay. Crying means you have love inside." William had to look away, his jaw tightening as he fought his own emotions. This little girl, facing something no child should ever face, was comforting them. Sarah stepped forward then, unable to stay silent any longer. "Your Royal Highnesses, I don't know how to thank you." Emma hasn't talked this much in weeks. She's been so withdrawn, so scared. Catherine stood and embraced Sarah, protocol forgotten. "You don't need to thank us. You're the one who deserves thanks. The strength you show every day, the love you give Emma, you're the real hero here." The two women held each other, mother to mother, their tears mingling. William placed a protective hand on his wife's back, his own eyes moist. In that moment, titles and positions meant nothing. They were simply human beings sharing in the profound pain and beauty of life. Before they left, William did something unexpected. He removed his watch, a simple but elegant timepiece, and placed it on Emma's bedside table. "This is for you to time your treatments," he said. "Every time you look at it, remember that you're not alone. We're thinking of you." Emma's small voice followed them as they prepared to leave. Will you come back? Catherine knelt beside her once more. We'll try our very best. And even when we're not here, we'll be thinking of you. You're going to be in our hearts. As they walked down the corridor, Catherine had to stop. She leaned against the wall, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. William wrapped his arms around her, holding her close. She's so young, Catherine whispered. It's not fair. No, it's not, William agreed, his voice thick with emotion. But did you see her strength? Did you see her mother's love? That's what we can support. That's why we do this. They composed themselves before meeting with the hospital staff, but the rawness of the moment stayed with them. The head nurse, Margaret, who had worked in pediatric oncology for 30 years, later said she had never seen such genuine compassion from any visitors, royal or otherwise. The visit continued to other wards, but Emma's room had set the tone for the day. In each room, William and Catherine took their time, really listening, really seeing the children and their families. They held hands with teenagers facing chemotherapy. They read stories to toddlers recovering from surgery. They sat in silence with parents who had no words left. In the adolescent ward, they met Marcus, a 15-year-old who had lost his leg to bone cancer. He was angry at the world, refusing to participate in physical therapy, pushing everyone away. His mother had warned them he might not even acknowledge their presence. But William saw something in Marcus that others might have missed. He noticed a guitar in the corner of the room. "Do you play?" he asked simply. Marcus shrugged, but his eyes flickered with interest. William picked up the guitar, examining it. "I tried to learn once. I was terrible. My brother Harry used to say I sounded like a dying cat." Despite himself, Marcus smirked. "Can't be that bad." "Oh, it was," William insisted. Catherine can confirm. "She suffered through my attempts at music." Catherine laughed, the sound genuine despite the tears from earlier. "He's being modest. He was actually catastrophically bad." Marcus actually smiled then. I could show you some chords, if you want." For the next half hour, Marcus taught the future king of England basic guitar chords. The sight of William fumbling with the instrument while Marcus patiently corrected him filled the room with unexpected lightness. Catherine captured a few moments on her phone, not for publicity, but because she saw the light returning to Marcus's eyes. Before leaving, William made Marcus promise to keep practicing. "When you're better, when you're out of here, I want you to play at the palace. We'll have a proper concert." Marcus's mother broke down completely. He hasn't touched that guitar since the surgery. He said he'd never play again. Catherine hugged her tightly. Children have a way of surprising us with their resilience. Sometimes they just need someone to see them as more than their illness. The visit was supposed to last 2 hours. William and Catherine stayed for 5. They missed their next engagement, causing panic among their staff, but they didn't care. How could they leave when there were still children to see, parents to comfort, staff to thank? In the cancer ward's family room, they sat with a group of parents whose children were in various stages of treatment. There are no cameras here, no protocol, just raw, honest conversation. Parents shared their fears, their small victories, their devastating losses. William and Catherine listened, really listened, occasionally sharing their own experiences as parents. One father, James, talked about how his son's illness had destroyed his marriage. "My wife couldn't handle it. She left. It's just me and Tom now." His voice broke. "I don't know if I'm strong enough." William leaned forward, his voice firm but kind. "You're here. You're fighting for your son every day. That's strength. Don't let anyone, including yourself, tell you otherwise." Another mother, Patricia, shared how her daughter's cancer had brought their family closer. "It's strange to say, but we've learned what really matters. Every moment is precious now." Catherine nodded, understanding deeply. Children teach us that, don't they? They live so fully in the present, even when facing something terrifying. The conversation turned to practical matters, the financial strain, the siblings who felt forgotten, the marriages tested to breaking point. William and Catherine took mental notes, already planning how their foundation could better support these families beyond medical care. As the afternoon wore on, the visit took on an almost sacred quality. In the chapel, they prayed with families of different faiths and no faith at all, united in hope and desperation. In the playroom, they got on the floor with toddlers building blocks and reading stories, providing exhausted parents with a moment to simply breathe. But it was the quiet moments that carried the most power. Catherine holding the hand of a mother whose child was in surgery. William sitting in silence with a father who had just received devastating news. No words were needed. Their presence was enough. Near the end of their visit, they returned to check on Emma one more time. She was sleeping, the silver star visible at her neck, William's watch clutched in her small hand. Sarah was dozing in the chair beside her, exhaustion finally claiming her. They didn't wake them. Catherine simply left a note on the bedside table for Emma and her brave mummy. "You're loved more than you know." William and Catherine. As they finally prepared to leave, the entire staff had gathered to say goodbye. Many were crying. Margaret, the head nurse, struggled to speak. "In all my years, I've never what you've done today." William clasped her hand. "You do this every day. You're the real heroes. We just visited. You live this. You fight alongside these families. Don't ever forget how important you are." The drive back to Kensington Palace was silent. Both William and Catherine were lost in their thoughts, processing the emotional weight of the day. Finally, Catherine spoke. "We have to do more." "Yes," William agreed immediately. "Much more." That evening, as they tucked their own children into bed, they held them a little tighter, kissed them a little longer. Prince George asked why Mummy's eyes were red. Catherine smiled through fresh tears. "I met some very brave children today. They reminded me how lucky we are." Later, in the privacy of their sitting room, Catherine finally let herself fully break down. The tears came in waves as she thought of Emma, of Marcus, of all the children fighting battles no child should face. William held her, his own tears falling silently. "She gave us comfort," Catherine said through her sobs, remembering Emma's small hand on her cheek. "That beautiful, sick little girl gave us comfort." "They all did," William replied, his voice rough. "Every single one of them. Their courage, their grace, it's humbling. They stayed up late into the night planning. How could they use their position to make real change? How could they ensure families like Emma's got not just medical care, but emotional support, financial help, respite care?" The visit had changed them, deepened their understanding of what their roles could truly mean. The next morning, their staff was surprised to find them already at work, making calls, setting up meetings with healthcare officials and charity organizations. The quiet hospital visit that was meant to be routine had ignited something powerful in them. Meanwhile, at the hospital, word had spread about the visit. But it wasn't the fact that royalty had come that moved people. It was the stories, how Prince William had knelt on the floor, how Catherine had cried with the mothers, how they had stayed hours past schedule because they couldn't bear to leave. Emma woke up that morning and immediately looked for William's watch. Finding it still there, she smiled. "Mummy," she said, "they really came. It wasn't a dream." Sarah nodded, clutching the note Catherine had left. "No," squeaked Garth. "It wasn't a dream." In the weeks that followed, changes began happening at the hospital. Anonymous donations arrived specifically for family support services. A new program was launched to provide respite care for parents. Music therapy was expanded, with a note that it was inspired by Marcus. The media never got the full story of that day. There were no official photographs, no press releases. But the families who were there knew. The staff knew. And slowly, through whispered stories and grateful tears, word spread of the day. The future king and queen came not as royals, but as human beings, and left pieces of their hearts in every room they visited. Months later, Emma would lose her battle with cancer. But she left this world wearing the silver star, clutching Mr. Buttons, and timing her final breaths on William's watch. Her last words to her mother were about the prince and princess who had shown her she was brave. Catherine and William attended the funeral privately, sitting in the back, their presence known only to Sarah. After the service, Sarah approached them. "She talked about you until the end. You gave her something no medicine could. You made her feel special, important, seen." Through her tears, Catherine held Sarah close. She was special. She was important. And we saw her, truly saw her. We always will. As they left the small church, William took Catherine's hand. They walked in silence, two people forever changed by a quiet hospital visit that had revealed the true power of compassion, the strength found in vulnerability, and the profound impact of simply showing up with an open heart. The official records would show that the Prince and Princess of Wales had made a routine hospital visit that autumn day. But for those who were there, for the families whose lives they touched, it was nothing short of a miracle, not of healing bodies, but of lifting spirits, sharing burdens, and proving that sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is simply be present in another's pain. Years later, when William would become king, he would often think of Emma and her profound words about tears meaning you have love inside. Those words would guide his reign, reminding him that true leadership comes not from strength alone, but from the courage to be vulnerable, to cry with your people, to kneel beside their hospital beds, and see them not as subjects, but as fellow human beings deserving of love, dignity, and hope. The quiet, powerful moment in that Birmingham hospital room rippled outward, touching millions who heard the story, reminding them that compassion knows no boundaries, that tears can be a bridge between hearts, and that sometimes the smallest gestures, a watch left behind, a star passed on, a hand on a cheek, can carry the weight of all the love in the world.